latitude, altitude, topography, surrounding bodies of water, ocean current. Have you ever wondered how these factors affect the climate of a particular place? Hello, SciPals! I am Ma'am Tessa Sela, your science teacher for today. In this episode of Agham Alam Hub, we will explain how different factors affect the climate of an area. We will describe the different factors affecting climate. In addition, we will determine why the climate of one place differs from the other. Furthermore, we will appreciate the importance of these factors in determining the climate of an area. In the next few minutes, we will explore science for another moment. Climate is the general weather pattern in a specific area over a long period and is affected by different factors. These are latitude, altitude, topography, surrounding bodies of water, and ocean current. Latitude refers to the distance of a location on Earth's surface from the equator in relation to the North and South poles. Based on latitude, the world's climates are classified into three types. They are the polar climate or frigid zone, found at the North and South poles, the temperate climate or temperate zone, located in the areas away from the equator, and the tropical climate or torrid zone, found at the equatorial belt. Let us see this illustration. Earth is tilted on its axis at an angle of 23.5 degrees. As the sun rays strike, different parts of the Earth receive different amounts of solar radiation. Thus, the climate of a place also affects the distance from the equator. At the poles, since energy from the sun reaches Earth's surface at a lower angle and travels through a thicker layer of the atmosphere than at the equator, the climate is expected to be cooler. Therefore, the farther you go from the equator, the cooler it becomes. The regions closer to the Earth's equator experience higher temperatures than regions near the North and South poles. The second factor is altitude. It is the absolute height of a location, usually measured from sea level. For every 100-meter rise in altitude, the temperature decreases by about 1 degree Celsius. High-altitude regions, such as mountainous places, experience low temperatures compared to low-altitude areas. Do you know why? This is because Earth's surface absorbs heat energy from the sun. When the surface warms up, the heat diffuses and warms the atmosphere, and in turn, transfers some of the heat to the upper layers of the atmosphere. Therefore, the layers of the atmosphere closest to Earth's surface, like the low-altitude areas, are typically warmer than those in higher altitude areas. To give you an example, let us look at this table. What is the elevation of Manila? Baguio. What can you say about their average temperature? Correct! Manila is 10 meters above sea level, while Baguio is 1,400 meters above sea level. Since Baguio has a higher elevation than Manila, Its climate is lower than Manila, which is 16 degrees Celsius and 27.7 degrees Celsius respectively. Can you now understand why Lucban, Quezon is colder than the nearby towns? The next factor is topography. It is the arrangement of an area's natural and artificial physical features. One of the topographic features of an area is a mountain. Mountains significantly affect the amount of precipitation in a specific region. In what way do mountains affect the amount of precipitation? Topographic barriers such as mountains and hills are examples of topographical features of the land. Let us see this picture. As you notice, it shows two sides of the mountain, the windward and the leeward sides. The windward side is facing the wind and has a low temperature. Clouds are forming here because mountains force prevailing winds up over their slopes. As air rises, it also cools. Cooler air is capable of holding less water vapor than warmer air. As the air cools, this water vapor is forced to condense, depositing rain or snow on windward slopes. There is no cloud formation on the other side of the mountain, called the leeward side, and the air contains very little moisture. This results in the formation of the dry and warm region. Surrounding bodies of water is another factor. How do they affect the climate of the area? Soil absorbs heat faster than water. At the same time, soil releases heat faster compared to water. This slow absorption and release of heat by the body of water significantly affect the climate. Places near the oceans have moderate climates as the water regulates the temperature. Even as both soil and water absorb the same amount of heat, the water temperature rises more slowly than soil. Because soil heats up faster than water, the air temperature above the sea is lower than above ground during the daytime. Warm air thus moves out from land to sea, slowing down air temperature rise above land. Therefore, places without a body of water nearby tend to have higher air temperatures during the daytime. Another factor is the ocean currents. Ocean currents are continuous, predictable, and directional movements are driven by gravity, wind, and water density. Ocean water moves in two directions, horizontally and vertically. Horizontal movements are called currents, while vertical changes are called upwellings and downwellings. This abiotic system is responsible for heat transfer, variations in biodiversity, and Earth's climate system. Let us see this figure. This figure shows different loops or gyres of surface current around the world. In the northern hemisphere, the current flows in a clockwise motion. Some examples of current flows are Greenland current, Labrador current, and Kamchatka current, which brings cold water. On the other hand, in the southern hemisphere, the current flows in a counterclockwise motion. Some examples of current flows here are Peru current and West Australian current, which also carry cold water. Coriolis effect causes these clockwise and counterclockwise movements of ocean current. Ocean currents that flow away from the equator carry warm water, and the air above the warm water has a higher temperature. Some examples of current in the equator are north and south equatorial current, equatorial countercurrent, which brings warm water. When these warm ocean currents that take along warm water get to the landmass, the temperature of that place increases, as warmer air above the water flows inland, resulting in a warm climate. Whereas, when ocean currents that bring cold water move towards a coastal region, the temperature of that area decreases as warmer air from the land flows to the sea, resulting in a cold climate. Let us have an example. The southwestern parts of Singapore and Indonesia have lower temperatures because of the cold air brought by West Australian current. On the other hand, the Kuroshio current from the northeastern part of the Philippines brings warm water. This raises the temperature of the places in the southeastern part of Japan. How does the ocean current affect the climate of a particular area? Ocean currents affect the temperature of the nearby landmass. Warm currents that move from the equator towards the poles carry warm water to coastal areas, make the climate warm. On the other hand, cold currents that travel from the poles toward the equator carry cold water to coastal areas, make the climate cold. Identifying the different factors affecting climate is important in describing the climate of a particular area. Explaining how these factors affect the climate help us understand the climate of different places or countries. In this episode of Agham Alam Hub, we learned what climate is and the different factors affecting it. Climate is the general pattern of weather in a particular area over a long period of time and is affected by different factors. These are latitude, altitude, topography, surrounding bodies of water, and ocean current. Latitude refers to the distance of a location on Earth's surface from the equator in relation to the North and South poles. The regions closer to Earth's equator experience higher temperatures than regions near the North and South poles. Latitude is the absolute height of a location, usually measured from sea level. The higher the altitude, the colder the climate is. Topography is the arrangement of an area's natural and artificial physical features. One of the topographic features of an area is a mountain. Mountains significantly affect the amount of precipitation in a particular region. Surrounding bodies of water also affect the climate. Places near the oceans have moderate climates as water regulates the temperature. Places without a body of water nearby tend to have higher air temperatures during the daytime. Ocean currents are continuous, predictable, and directional movements driven by gravity, wind, and water density. Ocean water moves in two directions, horizontally and vertically. Horizontal movements are called currents, while vertical changes are called upwellings or downwellings. This abiotic system is responsible for heat transfer, variation in biodiversity, and Earth's climate system. Identifying the different factors affecting climate is important in describing the climate of a particular area. Explaining how these factors affect the climate helps us understand the climate of different places or countries. That's all for today, Saipals. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. See you again next week for another moment. Only here in Agham Alam Hub, Palajan's SciTech Portal. Bye!